Another one.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Hello. How are you? Before we start, if I may, the people sitting in the back, if you want to come closer, that's okay. There's going to be an open dialogue at the end, so okay to come forward. And I don't want to push anyone, but if you want to, please do. So good afternoon. My name is Clara Soler. I work at the Institute of Marine Sciences in Barcelona, and I have the today to be moderating this session with these brilliant women that I will get to introduce in just a bit. I would like to just very quickly go over how the session is going to go. We're going to start with some introduction remarks. We'll then go to the roundtable discussion part of the session, finishing with an open dialogue, and we expect all of you to contribute, to ask questions, but also if you have anything to contribute, please do. And we will finish with a cocktail at the terrace at the end, where you're all welcome. So please stay until the end for the cocktail. Okay. So without further ado, yes, that was very subtle. Okay. I hope you all got the message. Anyway, I would like to introduce now Arantxa, who is the director of Etxea, who will give us first of all, Etxea is an association of the Basque country for UNESCO, and she will give us the introductory remarks. So please, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bienvenue, welcome, ongi etorriak. For us, it's a pleasure to be back on the United Nations Oceans Conference to talk about gender. If you have browsed through the programs, both the official program and side events, there's a huge gap on gender events, discussions, and reflections. And I'm saying back here because last year in Barcelona at the conference of the Decade of Sustainability of the Oceans, we also did a side event bringing the perspective of gender equality to the table and to the reflection. Today's event is called Accelerating Ocean Sustainability Through Gender Equality. I'm very happy to be surrounded by our colleagues in this path, Instituto Ciencias del Mar, from the Spanish National Research Council, CSIC. Thank you very much for being a partner on this path with us again. UNESCO Gender Division, which was also last year and which has, for us is a key companion through this process on bringing and putting gender at the center of the sustainability of the oceans. Bermeo Tuna World Capital, which joins us in this conversation for the first time, but surely not the last one, and brings us also the perspective of the private sector. So thank you very much. And then us as UNHCR from civil society's perspective. So just to give a hint on the different approaches that we want to bring to the table and the coordination and the 360 approach that we want to bring. We do this side event with the support of the Basque government. And first of all, thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you all for joining in this side event. Thanks for those that we know and we've been in contact through online meetings, and those that have met in person, and those that we meet you for the first time, but hopefully not the last one. Women play a crucial role in ocean-related sectors such as fisheries, aquaculture, coastal management, and private companies linked to the ocean. However, our contributions often go unrecognized and undervalued. Today, we want to highlight the need of full and meaningful participation of women in ocean science, marine policy making, blue economy leadership, and seafood producers, recognizing that inclusive decision making leads to more just, resilient, and sustainable outcomes We want to make visible the invisible. We want to talk and express the vulnerabilities, challenges, and also good practices related to ocean sustainability linked to women and to the gender approach. We go beyond SDG 14. We present here a system thinking in which the sustainability of the ocean is highly interlinked with women's rights, but also women's leadership and women's contribution to this sustainability. We talk about economic growth, employment, leadership, human rights, especially women's rights. As I mentioned last year, we organized a side event and we developed a list of recommendations to incorporate the role of women, gender equality in ocean science. And I'm going to briefly read through them because we're not just focusing on ocean science today. We're talking about ocean science, but we're talking beyond that. But we feel that these recommendations could apply easily to our to the sustainability of the oceans. The first of them is to incorporate gender as a cross-cutting and integrate it into actions, policies, and programs. Second is the joint action of different stakeholders like public, private, civil society organization, academia, and multilateral organizations. And today is a great reflection of that. To promote women's participation and leadership, to promote capacity building specifically designed for women, to enhance transdisciplinary approaches, to increase the investment and funding for women-led projects and initiatives, to create spaces and networks of professional women to work together, to improve knowledge on gender gap, to invest in quality education opportunities for young women in ocean sciences, but also in young women's career linked to oceans and sustainability of the ocean. To address gender discrimination from intersectional perspective and to construct inclusive and respectful working environments. This is what we came up last year. We will probably think of gathering the ideas that we shared today, both in the table but also with the open dialogue, and we hopefully would be able to provide a recommendation as well on how to advance on ocean sustainability from a gender perspective approach. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Aranza. That was really well said, and thank you for all the work you're doing, and hopefully today's discussion will definitely focus on some of these topics, and we can even go for the new recommendations, right? I would like to introduce now the other speakers that are sitting here. We have Danielle Clich. She works at the Division of Gender Equality at UNESCO. We have Silvia Donoso with us as well. She's the Interim Associate Deputy Director at the Institute of Marine Sciences, so we're actually colleagues, we work together. We have Maitane Licaola, who is the Director of Bermeo, Tuna World Capital, so from the private sector. Welcome to all of you. I would like to start the discussion with a few general questions, and let's see what are your first responses, and after that we can go more in depth on different subjects. The first one is how can gender equality act as a catalyst to accelerate ocean sustainability? And it's a very broad question. I don't expect for you to solve it, but please give us an overview.
Thank you.
No?
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I'm the first victim of the general question. I would like to say thank you, first of all, for having UNESCO's participation here. The work that you're doing is so important for us. We are expanding our perspective of implementing gender equality in all areas of UNESCO's work, including in the ocean sciences and more broadly the ocean. So this is a new area of work for us for the past 2 years, and we are really so happy to have you as our partners and taking our work forward. One thing that we've learned a lot is that how much we don't know. And our knowledge about the ocean in general is very limited, despite all of the scientific evidence that is gathered here in Nice or in other parts of the world. The concentration, generally speaking, I think we can all agree that we are still scratching the surface of the underworld. There is always, we always say that, you know, women make up half of humanity, therefore, and we can declinate this into different areas. It's good for business, it's good for scientific invention, it's good for talent involvement. Basically, it comes down to what we put forward all the time is that empowering women, promoting gender equality is a human rights issue. And this is what is really important for us, whether we're talking about the ocean, sustainability, sustainable development, etc., in the context of this discussion today. And when we talk about empowering women in the ocean in terms of leadership, scientific research, etc., on the one hand, it's almost natural, you know, it's a no-brainer in a way. We know this. And I don't know if anybody had a chance yet to go to the Villa Arson to see this exhibition, Becoming Ocean. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, please go. It's excellent. There was an artist at the beginning of this exhibition. Her name is Courtney Desiree Morris, and she created an altar. And this altar was of Yemaya, who is the ocean mother of Orisha. So already in our cultural expressions, our cultural heritage, we even heard from the heads of state this morning, if you listen to them, they talked about promoting and protecting the ocean as part of our common cultural heritage. And part of our common cultural heritage is also recognizing these different cultural traditions where Yamaya, for example, the ocean mother, is considered to be the Orisha as the birthplace of all living things. And so this is what you will see at this exhibition, including amazing documentaries, scientific documentaries that have been made by women filmmakers from different parts of the world. It's not only women, it's also men as well, but there's an extraordinary amount of women participating in this exhibition, which is not normal usually. So I encourage you to go there. So on the one hand, I say that acknowledging women's role and promoting gender equality as being good for ocean is natural, but it's also, we find some very unnatural things in this conversation. And one of them is that while women make up the majority of the workforce in fields like fisheries or tourism, coastal tourism, etc., we see that only 38% of the scientific, ocean scientific researchers are women. And so we have to ask ourselves why. You know, we're going to be exchanging a lot of data today, but at some point, I think when we get to your recommendations, it's important for us to answer that question, why? We also know some data about the fact that women are said to be more environmentally conscious. 83% of women consider climate change serious, a serious problem in comparison to 56% men. And it's said that women have a smaller carbon footprint. I don't have the specific data for that, but this is what the research is telling us. The research is also telling us, and our lived experiences are also telling us that the challenges, the ocean challenges, are not gender neutral. And this is something which is also not obvious for a lot of people. So when I tell people even that we're doing scientific research or doing research, policy research on gender in the ocean, they look a bit funny. Is there a gender dimension to the ocean? And so, yes, there's the ocean challenges are not gender neutral. And we can be talking about overfishing, we can talk about pollution, we can talk about biodiversity loss, but are gender dimensions, gender issues that we need to address, and I'm sure throughout this panel we'll unpack those. One of them, for example, and I'll end there, is that if we look at climate change, the relationship between climate change and poverty, which of course is an aspect of the ocean we're discussing here in Nice, it's estimated that 158 million women and girls are pushed into poverty as a direct result of climate change. So that's, and it's quite a significant number more. I think it's, I can't remember the exact number, so I won't say it, just so I don't get it wrong. A significant number more than men and boys. So there are many issues that I'm sure we'll get to later throughout the panel. Thank you.
Sylvia?
She gave all the answer.
Do you want to add something? Otherwise,
No, I fully agree. I fully agree. I was thinking that I will turn the question: how can we want to accelerate ocean sustainability, or even think about ocean sustainability without women being part of the process? Because we are half of the population, but we have half of their solutions at least. And I think this is important to. Women are all around, but we don't have voice sometimes. We know how to do, how to contribute, but we have no space to talk. And I think that just to complement Daniel, we need space to talk. We have things to say, we have solutions, we have ideas, and we have problems and interests, and we have everything, but we need to have voice. And I think this is gonna be one of the most important things, to have spaces to talk. And also important people listening us, because sometimes I'm happy because we have a lot of men here. Sometimes we are women talking for women, and we want to be part of the solution, and we need men to be with us in looking for solutions. And I think this is a nice and good moment, and I'm happy about the diversity also. This is a very diverse public, and I'm really happy, I have to say that.
Yes, we are actually I have the same thought, and we're very lucky, and thank you all for being here. Should we go to the next question? Do you want to add something else?
No, I totally okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I totally agree with what you said. I come from a public-private association, more private than public, because we have almost more than 40 entities, associates, and only 3 of them are public. The rest of them are private companies. All of them related to the tuna value chain, from the sea to the fork, let's say. And we promote the sustainability all along the tuna value chain. But I would say, just listening to you, that we understand the sustainability not only as an environmental issue, but also as a social and economic issue, because we understand that if sustainability is not the 3 of them, it is not sustainable at all. So I am especially happy to share this deal with you, because when we talk about social dimension, I think that gender issues have much to say in that, especially in a sector where women are invisible in general. So just to compliment, I would say that I totally agree with what Natalie said, and especially happy to share our experience and learn a lot from you, because we have a lot to learn and a lot to improve in gender issues in general change.
Yeah, you mentioned that women are not they don't necessarily have spaces to speak and to be in the decision-making phase. You also mentioned that they are sometimes invisible, almost all the times. I was wondering if you can tell us a bit more about the main structural and cultural barriers that are stopping women from having this full and meaningful participation in each one of your sectors related to ocean, of course. Who wants to start? Yeah, Daniel, if you want to.
Okay, thank Thanks. I'll start because I think maybe we're covering quite a lot of sectors at UNESCO, from education to science, culture, communication, information, media, etc. So in terms of structural and cultural barriers, first of all, I want to share with you a study we just did called Uncharted Waters and Exploration for Gender Equality and the Ocean. And there's some copies here for those who would like to have one. And in this study, we talk about the different structural barriers. And one of the main ones is access to education. So that's the beginning of the story here. And we would really love to understand what are the root causes for that. We know that in the society there are different biases, stereotypes, etc., which are not necessarily encouraging young girls to go into scientific or what we call STEM fields of education. And this starts with the family. And then it progresses through the media as well as attitudes at school, etc. We don't have data, disaggregated data on women in, let's say, ocean sciences, studying ocean sciences. We just don't have it. So what we use as a proxy right now is the share of women in STEM. And the kind of bad news here is that what we've found globally is that 35% of the students in STEM are women, and this has not changed in the last 10 years. So this is really not good news. So this is a barrier: knowledge, information, education. The second barrier we have identified is the underrepresentation of women in leadership roles and in research institutes, in director positions, let's say. We have some examples here, so we're very happy about that. But this is a serious issue, and I guess one could argue that if you don't have enough women in education, you're not going to have enough women in leadership roles. But we could say, when you have the proper mentorship and networking opportunities in place, even those 35% who are very talented and can excel can actually make it to those types of leadership roles and positions, whether it's a scientific role, whether it's a policy-making role, whether it's a management role in the private sector, for example. Another barrier that's important is the persistent stereotypes and discrimination that women face. You talked about the invisibility of women, but a lot of times women are stepping back from these roles, or more visible roles, also because of the harassment. That's 78%, you know? So when we talk about invisibility and trying to understand why, we can look at maybe, the lack of access to education, lack of promotion of women to leadership management roles, but also structural issues and developments which are making women step back because they don't want to be visible, because they are facing very difficult times. We are doing some interesting work right now in Africa, trying to understand more what we learned about this time last year, on transactional sex for fish. And this is really a problem. And with the climate change and the drying up of the waters and the lack of fish, we learned that most of the fisher persons are men, and most of the persons selling the fish in the marketplaces are women. And when there's not enough fish to sell, there's this type of things happening, and it's very serious and it's very worrying, and we're doing our best to find out more about this so we can try to change the situation. There's just so many structural barriers that we have learned about that are published in this study that really have an impact on so many different aspects of a woman's career in ocean sciences, from even their ability to publish, to secure funding for their work, for their research, to gain recognition, visibility for their achievements, or to advance to senior positions. So what we are trying to do is not just sort of skim the surface, surf the surface, but to find out what are the root causes of these structural barriers to the advancement of careers for women in ocean sciences. And the last one that really also seriously concerns us is especially women's experience at sea. So a lot of times we're talking about onshore type of work, research, policy, industry, etc. But we are also looking at women on, and one of the problems that we've found is the inadequacy of the shipping and fishing vessels. There's not proper facilities. Equipment is not made for women. So it's kind of like, the old story about seatbelts. When the cars were being tested with the seatbelts, so they made the seatbelts too short, and so this was a big problem. They had to recall a lot of vehicles because of this. So it obviously doesn't make good business to only do testing on the men. So this is what we're finding also about the shipping vessels, and these shipping vessels are not just there catching fish. They're also there doing research. The research vessels that are taking samples that are going out for 6 months at a time, 8 months at a time, where there's also home care and family responsibilities that come into this mix that are another type of issue, barrier, if you like, that can have an impact on a woman's career development at sea. So it's important to also remember we're not only talking about what's happening on the ground, but also out in the oceans.
Maybe Maitane, would you like to add something?
Well, it was a good approximation to the reality of women in the sector. I am not going to hide myself from this. Is working? Yes, from this debate. I think we have a lot of things to improve in gender equity along the value chain of tuna. And I think that the equality must be a central pillar of our work, because we have to promote the way where women can be part of all these value chains, not only evaluating and empowering the work we do, but also being members of the decision-making spaces, and also improving the way we can work together to generate training systems that help to improve better conditions of co-living in the sea and also in land. I think that there are a lot of things to change, but things are changing at the same time. I'm not going to say everything is good in the private sector, but I think we have to explain as well where are we coming from. The tuna value chain is one of the most complex and the longest value chain in the food sector. It is true that almost the women represent almost the half of the workforce. When we are talking about processing, they are almost the 90% of the workforce, and it is not casual that women are the ones that do the kind of work that is manual, precise, physically demanding, and I would say also that this is the kind of work that is strategical for safety, quality, and also the efficiency of the entire industry. But at the same time, it is the kind of work that is lowest paid, least visible, and least protected in land and in sea. And also women are not in the representation places where they can make their voices listened. And I think that we have acknowledged the reality and we want to change things. And I think that the private sector in the tuna industry is beginning to do that, but still there is a long way to go forward. Bermeo Tuna World Capital is a Basque country-based public-private association with a global focus. Bermeo, let me tell you that I come from really a small town. We have like almost 17,000 inhabitants, which is a small town in the Basque country. But at the same time, we lead the global tuna industry because the companies rooted in Bermeo are responsible for the 10% of the tropical tuna catches in the world, which is like a huge amount of catching. And the tuna vessels from Bermeo are well known because they are the most innovative in social and technological issues from a sustainability perspective. Our companies are promoting certifications like MSC, Marine Stewardship Council, and also APR from INOR, Responsible Fishing certification. And that needs to do with social and laboral issues on board and in land. We come from a long history. I remember that in the 20th century, a journalist talked about Bermeo like the paradise of women. It was not something casual. He came to Bermeo and he only found women all around the streets of the city. That was because most of the men were working in the sea. And the only women, and the women were the only people who were running the city. They were taking the decisions, they were taking the child care, they were running other activities. And when he asked to the women he found, where are the men that they were working, and how do you manage yourself? And they answered, we don't need them anymore. We just manage ourselves to take care of the city and our children very well. But that's not the way. We need each other. And nowadays, women are working to promote their rights. They are leading the better working conditions, not only in the Basque country, but also in the rest of the basic ports where we are doing our activity. And they are demanding also as well for recognition in occupational diseases and labor rights. So I think that we have to promote this situation. We have to empower women. We have as well to pay tribute to these women and get acknowledge that the struggle continues and shouldn't let them alone. You said that it is happy to see that here we are leading women, and women lead. But still, this is not something very natural as well. I will be happy not only to have men listening to us. I will really be happy to debate with men how we can join women to decision-making issues in fisheries, decision-making issues in canning sector, in processing sector, in distribution, and how we can do better conditions for those women who are working on board, which is not something strange nowadays. We have captain women, we have leading women in fisheries, but still the vessels are not prepared. Educational issues must be pushed forward to make us understand that when we are living together in a small vessel, because in the end, tuna fishing vessels are big vessels, but still when you are spending 4 months away from home, living with other 30 people on board, it is like a big brother. So we must learn to co-live with other people, and especially we must learn to live with female and male people in a very reduced space, which is thought to be used only by one gender. And that should make us think that maybe we will need to co-create the solution to this situation. And that has to do with making women be part of the solution, asking them about how do they live this situation, and try to co-create this solution with women and men. This is not something about women against men or men against women. The future of the fisheries, the future of the tuna value chain, I think it's going to be shared by women and men, and it's going to be shared by the local territories, only in the Basque Country, but also in the whole world. And we have to look for a system that is fair for everybody, because it is not fair, it's not going to be sustainable at all.
That is very true. Maybe Sylvia, you want to add something else? It has been mentioned already about women scientists.
Yeah. No, I was thinking that since that we have prepared the answers together. No, I was thinking that we have the structural barriers, but we have also the institutional ones, that is a transposition of the structural ones, and we have the interpersonal barriers, but also the internal barriers. And this is very important. And I think that we have to take into account that cultural norms that change almost in every country are really important to decide. Social expectations for women and men, for girls and boys. It is supposed that girls with 6 years have already renounced to be an STEM future professional, which is really early in their lives. With 6 years, you are not expected to be a marine scientist. This is really hard. So one of the things I was thinking, what are we doing to change this, is to have positive roles, model roles for girls and young women. So this is one of the strategies that we are thinking. We have to not to have figures, a reference for people, for young girls to imagine themselves in the future being a biologist or some oceanographic researcher or everything. This is one thing I was thinking. Persistent gender stereotypes are horrible. This is horrible for us because this limits absolutely our possibilities. You already talked about this, and you also. And I was thinking we have the same problems. Scientific specials have the same problems as we have short space, long periods, and not necessarily the best organization of the vessel to have women and men working together. And sometimes we have the army because our army vessels. So this is a very complicated situation that push women outside research vessels. So it's all these things working together that push women outside the scientific world. It has to do also with work-life balance. It has to do with harassment, a lot with harassment, less possibilities, less access to resources, to leadership, to decision-making position. Like a pipe.
The pipeline?
Yeah, the leaky pipeline. No, we are losing girls, young women, and women all around the process, and at the end we have only men, because this is your life, your professional life is like a fight full of obstacles, and at some point you say, I can't resist anymore. And it's not because you are not intelligent enough, it is not but because you are a hard worker, it's because the system is so perverse that push you out of the system. And we need to change a lot of things. We have different levels. We can talk this later, but we think that we have the institutional level that we can control more or less, and we can push more easily because we know the reality. Because the other problem for me is the lack of data. We cannot have the full picture if we don't have data. And if women are invisible, I work in Guatemala for a long time, and a lot of women have no AD because they are nomadic. They are somewhere in the field, but they have no ID, so they cannot vote, they cannot be elected, they have no access to school. So if you are invisible, if you are not even a citizen because you don't have your ID, you are not supposed to arrive to anywhere. So sometimes I have also the feeling that we are more Eurocentric and we have our very Eurocentric point of view, but we need to be in the other side also, no? And understand that the reality is so different that we need to find solutions for everybody. So I'm thinking at the same time I'm talking, but I hope it's.
That was great. We were a bit on the pessimistic side. I want to turn it and go to the optimistic side. I would like for you to share briefly, because I was just checking the time. We have a lot to go through, and the time is running. So very briefly, if you could share examples where the inclusion of women in decision making have led to more resilient or innovative solutions. Yeah, Danielle, if you want to go first, or
Okay, or maybe Sylvia can go first because
I go first.
Perfect.
No, I am thinking of two examples. We need, it's working properly, at least in Spain, national pushing of legal frameworks. If you have a legal framework that push institutions, business, or to to bet for gender equality, you have to do it. We have the gender equality plans. This is in Spain, every enterprise, a big enterprise with more than 50 people need to have a gender equality plan. And this gender equality plan has measure, and among this measure is to ensure that women are part of decision-making bodies. You have to do it. So, and you are under control of government control. So if you need, if you want to candidate for my English is a bit,
European project?
no, even a European project, but also if you want to un contrato público de la administración, a public contract. If you don't have the gender equality plan, you have no possibilities. So you have a lot of measures. It has to do with life work balance. It has to do with harassment. It has to do with participation. It has to do with gender pay gap. So I think that when you have this not pushing enterprises, institution, it works. Another thing that is pushing the European Commission is that research funding organizations are also asking for gender equality plans, but also to introduce gender dimension in research, which is very important, because if we want to connect science with social impact, we need to take into account gender dimension. And this is very important. If you don't have this approach, you will not have funding from the European Commission. And I think it's a big step, a very important aspect. So if you want the money, you have to fulfill with some criteria. And I think these are two clear examples, at least for me, that are really pushing enterprises or research centers to fulfill or to fully commit with gender equality.
Yeah, sure. Sure, please go. I mean, I want this to be a discussion. So if Danielle, you feel that you have something to add to Sylvia, please go ahead.
I think we're sisters.
We're saying
I have some examples from different parts of the world. You said that maybe we're a bit Eurocentric, but and they're also, sorry to say this again, but they're included in the study here that we did, which is here if you would like to have a copy. So I have 4 quick examples from different parts of the world. One is about women in seafood in Australia. And here there's a network that supports women across the seafood supply chain. You were talking earlier about the leaky pipe, or about the the value chain approach. So this is a network that deals with everything from women who are working on boats or in the factories, but also in management and policy roles. So really this very comprehensive approach. And they have a very specific project, which is very interesting, called Turn the Tide. And this supports women career development opportunities and to address gender bias and cultural barriers. So they're expanding beyond the value chain approach in seafood industry. There's another interesting example from Brazil that focuses on empowering women in marine sciences. And this is again coming from an NGO that works not only to make the field of marine sciences more attractive for women at the lower level, not lower levels of it, the earlier levels of education, but also in careers in policymaking for marine sciences. And they also specifically address a lot of this work deals with the broader issues, but then they hone in on something very specific, and their specialty is to address women in coastal communities and to ensure that they're involved in research and in ocean conservation. You spoke earlier about the fact that if you don't even have a citizenship card, you're not part of the game. But in this particular case, working with the coastal communities in Brazil, they are trying to get the information they need in order to push the boundaries regardless of the identity card. So this is maybe an interesting model to further explore. From Canada, has been working with the government. This is a government-driven exercise together with the Hydrographic Society, and they have been working to improve the working conditions for women at sea by addressing all sorts of things like personal hygiene challenges, but also remodeling the vessels, whether they're small vessels or big vessels, to address this issue of same-sex cabin sharing. So this is something that the Canadians have been working on for the last years and have redesigned their research vessels for that. And the last one I wanted to share now, for lack of time, is the from South Africa. It's the Ocean Women for South Africa, and it's a university-driven initiative from the University of Cape Town that's providing Black women students with financial support and research opportunities in ocean sciences. So trying to ensure that not only access to education, but also access to research, the funding they need for research to be able to advance in their careers. So there's 4 very different examples from different parts of the world, but there are many, as you said, it's not all gloom and doom.
Thank you for sharing that, especially with this international perspective, because it really brings hope to the topic. Maitane, you have some examples as well, right?
Yes. You told that the legal framework pushes, and I pretty agree with that. And I would say that when we are talking about the food value chain in general, I think that retailers and food service companies are really a pusher as well, because when they ask to their suppliers to adopt several conduct codes that helps to gain this all these type of issues in our production. And I think that it is time that the industry catches up all this. Anyway, I would like to share several examples of how the tuna industry is trying to do things better. Because I think that I would like to say that there are some green examples in all this. It is not everything bad. I mean, I understand that we have a lot to do better, but I think that we are moving forward. And for example, when we realize that talking about gender equity is a matter of health, dignity, and opportunity, and we realize that in many tuna producing countries, women are working in precarious conditions, then we can take action about that. And for example, Sol Tuna is a company owned by one of our members, Golden Food. And they did a real good job in the Solomon Islands. For example, when they realized that women were leaving their factory jobs due to financial stress or lack of childcare, they acted. They provided budgeting, support, health services. Recently, they had built up a childcare center where women can leave their children while they are working. So I think that's a good practice. The result, absenteeism dropped, and morale of these women improved. So I think when we realize that it is not about charity, and it is a smart and evidence-based sustainability strategy, things do better. Another example would be about how we can involve women in the decision making. I mean, the gender equality cannot be imposed from top to bottom. That wouldn't work, and even worse if it is a male ecosystem. So we have to do the way to look for innovative solutions together, involving the perspective of women and men. And in this sense, Bolton again, but this time working together with Oxfam, have developed an initiative like it is called the Human Rights Impact Assessment, that is being led by women in Ecuador, Morocco, and Colombia. These assessments are conducted by women, not just for them, but ensure their voices say in the diagnosis and in the solutions. So in this initiative, they not only identify risk, but create spaces to propose solutions, priorities, influence decisions, and co-design action plans. I think this is gender-sensitive due diligence should be the way it should be. And the last example will be something we are involved in, and it is connected to something you said about the reality in peasants. We realized that the real change started with education and culture. And we realized as well that living together in a small vessel, it's a really complicated situation. So we have pushed a new project among three parts. The nautical school in Bermeo, one of the biggest tuna fishing companies in Bermeo as well, Albacora, and Bermeo Tuna World Capital Association, are developing a virtual reality training program. And the goal is to create immersive, realistic, and onboard simulation, not only to train technical skills, which is very important, but to build empathy, prevent conflicts, harassment, and improve coexistence on board. We know that many women experience very bad situations on board, discrimination, even violence, would say. And we realize that we must do better, but we don't have the solution. It is a male situation, a male cultural activity where women are arriving, and we have to learn together to get over these situations. So maybe technology can help in this. And so that's the reason why we are pushing for this innovative solution. It is not about manuals, it is changing mindsets and culture. So I think that's the three main examples. And one light in the dark. Even in decision-making spaces, we are seeing that things are changing. Today I'm representing a big organization that is related to more than 40 companies, private companies, private and public companies, but I am not the least and the last. I mean, for example, we have women chairing big companies at the moment. Albacora, which is one of the main tuna, fishing companies in the world, nowadays is chaired by a woman. And we are seeing as well women as captains, women on board in the bridge. Okay, they are not a lot, but they are changing the wave. So we must help them, because nowadays we don't just work in tuna or fishing sector. Nowadays we have women leading the tuna and the fishing sector. And you were talking about the necessity of having role models that can push young female people to become scientists, but also fishers, also company owners, also entrepreneurs. And I think that the members of the Bermeo Tuna World Capital Associations are pushing forward in this direction.
This is very positive and very promising. What is also very promising is the role that is having the UN Decade for Ocean Science for Sustainable Development as well. And I was hoping, Danielle, you can tell us a bit more on how gender equality is being mainstreamed into the initiatives of the Ocean Decade.
Sure. If I could just add one point where you're talking about on board and the violence on board and so on. I think what Sylvia said is having a policy, a legal framework, something is the only way. I mean, yes, changing mentalities is one thing, changing the cultural dimensions is another. But if you have a zero tolerance policy for harassment, violence, and so on, I think this is the first thing that can be done to change, because sometimes it needs to be forced, and that's why these laws and policies are so important. So
I agree with that. I think I just wanted to show that it is not only about year-round, but also about cultural and mind-changing sets. I think that we have to, these are like the two sides of the coin. We need legal framework that pushes a lot. We need the compliance of the retailing industry as well, because in our case we are talking about food value chain, and we eat, and as a consumers we have a lot of power. And also, on the other side, as a responsibility of the companies, we have to do things to change our culture. That's why that's the thing I wanted to put the focus on. Okay.
Very important. Very important. Quickly, I'll tell you about 4 things that UNESCO is doing. First of all, I don't know if any of you are aware here that as part of UNESCO we have and host the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, which is part of the co-organizers here of this conference and is the lead agency for the UN Ocean Decade implementation. So that's one thing. And in terms of the Ocean Decade, the team responsible for this said, okay, if we're expecting other people to implement gender equality actions, we need to implement them ourselves first. So one of the main issues or the main actions taken by the commission was to ensure that gender equality is part of the Ocean Decade framework in terms of representation. So for example, they've been able to make sure that 50% of those involved in the Ocean Decade framework are women, 52% receiving support for capacity building actions are women, 53% of women are on the Decade Advisory Body and Board, and 46% of the committees of National Decade Commissions are involving women. So this is part of the walk the talk work that we are doing at the governance level. Now, as an international organization, and as you were saying earlier about spaces, the UN Decade team is also very committed to ensuring that there's a platform where we can promote initiatives, share information. Like, for example, all of the examples that I cited from different parts of the world, because they help to promote what's happening in different sectors or fields of ocean sciences, industry, etc. But and also to promote and give some sorts of mentorship or role models, because we need role models also to be able to provide young women starting out in their careers with a perspective, with some guidance. And there's really a host of different initiatives that are provided on the website of the Ocean Decade. So if you go there, you will see projects and extensive information on gender equality issues that are provided by organizations like Women from the Sea. It's a network that was started a few years ago, which is very inclusive, embracing, and I invite and encourage everybody to join. There's others, Women in Blue, or another network on women in hydrology. So there's many different initiatives and opportunities to connect with women from different parts of the world through this platform that the Oceanographic Commission has created. And we've said this so many times, and we started at the beginning, and it will be probably one of the last things I say. We need data. We need information. You know, one of the things that the Division for Gender Equality, where I'm working now, did, and one of the reasons why we produced this research is because there wasn't any. And it's just like a mini grain in the sand or a drop in the ocean of the information and data and analysis that we need to collect. But it's a start. And so the Ocean Decade framework gives us this raison d'etre, gives us this motivation to actually push the organization, even push UNESCO, push the institution to do more, to see more, and to understand more. And the last thing I wanted to say is about a call to action that we launched last year on the 8th of March, the International Women's Day. We had a big conference where we brought together women working on climate action and also specifically on ocean issues. And there were 5 specific actions that made up this call for action from the global dialogue that we organized. And one was, of course, to reduce the gender gaps among scientific researchers. And the second is to encourage young girls and young female ocean sciences and provide them with quality education, to recognize and make visible the scientific work and results of women scientists, because a lot of times we talked about the invisibility of women working in this field, but the work sometimes of women scientists, we don't see it because it just is not recognized at all. And as we know very well, the work of women scientists is really crucial to solve major global issues and more recently health pandemics. Last 2 points of this call to action. One was to address the root causes for gender inequalities in this field. We can continue to talk as we do about the problems, but if we don't understand really what are the root causes and the reasons why this is happening, the change we propose or the change we work towards may not be, what you were saying earlier, sustainable. And the last is to engage in advocacy campaigns and global public awareness actions, because not only are women invisible, but women's issues are invisible. And we talk a lot here about the number of women, the gender gaps, and so on, but we're not only talking about that, we're talking about content as well. And this is something that needs a lot more public awareness. So those are the points I wanted to make.
Thank you for sharing those, and there's definitely a lot of things to do. Some have already been done, but still a long path to go. You have mentioned women scientists in a couple of times. Maybe Silvia, you can talk a bit more about this topic. We already mentioned barriers that they face. We have also mentioned best practices. I was also very curious to know what can be done from the science production of knowledge that can benefit women and men equally.
Thank you, Clara, for the question. Yeah, we have been done a lot. From our institute, we have our gender equality plan, and we say that we are really happy. We have done very nice steps. Never enough, but at least we are moving forward. And we are fighting to go forward with gender equality. But the next step, the next challenge is to integrate gender dimension in research content. That's again. And this means to make gender and sex analysis, introduce this analysis into all phases of research, from setting priorities on funding decisions to establish project objectives, methodologies, data gathering, analysis of results, and evaluation. We need to analysis we need a critical examination of how differences in gender roles, activities, needs, interests, opportunities, and rights affect women and men, girls and boys in a given policy area or research area. This means we need to know in order to contribute. If we don't need the interests and the needs of women, their situation, how they are related with the field we are carrying out research, we cannot give answers that are useful for these needs and needs. We cannot carry out research for research, science for science. We need science for people. We need science for society. If science will be useful, or we will be more useful if we are able to produce results that are useful not just for half of the humanity, if not for all the humanity. You were talking before the bells, but we have a lot of different previous experience, especially in medical sector. We have a lot of medicaments and that at the end they have been carrying out research with male, non-male candidates or rats, in fact. Yeah. And if they are always male animals, at the end they have results that are useful or good for male, but not necessarily for women. So we need to change, and medicine sector is changing a lot. I have to say that this has been of the first sectors changing their approach, and they're taking care of this, so they are considered male animals. And after that, they are proving with women and men, so to verify that the results are properly working for everybody. But we have to do the same with marine science, because women have different relation with ocean. They suffer different in a different way climate change impacts. So if we don't consider these different realities and we don't approach science to this social impact, we will not be as good as we think. We talk about excellence. We have to take care and consider gender dimension. And not only that, we have to go further and we have to take care of intersectionalities. There are different social dimensions that affect critically to persons. And we need to take this into account. We need to take into account that reality is different, countries are different. So if we don't have approach to a society, so to women or men as part of the society, the results that science produce will not be as good as we want to have. I think this is the next step. So I'm so happy the European Commission is pushing for gender dimension in research content, because I think this is the next step for science in general, but particular in marine science.
And Maitane, what are your next steps? Because you have also talked about some best practices that are already in place, but I'm sure you still have some challenges and you already have some next steps in mind.
Sure. I will talk about some aspects in general, like I connect with what my colleague said. Like I think that first of all we need to improve our transparency. We must ensure that the gender policies and actions are part of the framework, and they are visible and measurable. And for that, the legal framework is very important. I think we have to invest in health and safety, recognize women's occupational specific risk. We need to push for training and empowerment, not only for those women who are becoming scientists in the Tuna value chain, but also for managerial, technical, and innovative related areas. I think we need to build inclusive governance, invest in new mechanisms to ensure women have a seat in the table, in the negotiation areas, voicing how the future of the sector is going to be tailored and shaped. And we need to join forces for cross-sector collaboration. I think we have to push down the barriers. We have to work with NGOs, researchers, governments, and companies across the value chain to develop gender responsive sustainable strategies. And for that, looking inside. At the moment, we are trying to do that in our association. We are collaborating with UNOC3 to develop a ALMA methodology strategy to see which is our contributions to the localization of the 2030 agenda towards the value chain in Bermeo, our capital. And we are doing that with a process that is involving citizenship in Bermeo and in the territories we are working around our Tuna value chain. We are pushing the innovation in our companies to do things in a different way. And in this sense, if we are talking about gender equality, we must be innovative in the way we acknowledge the situation, and second, how we look for the answers. The third strategic area in this ALMA system will be to keep co-create solutions, like mission-focused strategies. And we are looking for which are the main issues where we want to work. And in this point, I would like to invite you to come to our next Tuna Forum next year in Bermeo, where we are going to analyze the reality of the tuna value chain from the perspective of the sustainability, as the social perspective is very crucial for us. I think that gender issues should be involved in this framework. So I would like to come with you in this next topic as well. And the fourth strategic area will be talking about finance. When we are doing business, you said that science should be for people, for people and the society said. I would say also for business. Science for science is nothing. And if we are talking about the environmental, social, and economic sustainability, we need science to be profitable as well, to keep on investing and doing things better. So, for policies as well. And the last but not least, with the ALMA situation and ALMA strategy, is how we develop a new narrative, a new storytelling about the sustainability all around the Tuna value chain. We are working in all these issues at the moment, and our next step is to develop a voluntary report by the end of the year, I hope, where we put black over white, which is our contribution to the local 2030 agenda from the tuna value chain perspective. The intention is to share our experience, our good practices, and our learnings to the whole tuna community all over the world. And if this helps to push forward and do things better, make more fair, more sustainable, that's fantastic for us. So in Bermeo we say that it is a way to do things in Bermeo style. And let me tell you a small piece of a song we have. In the hands of Bermeo's people, the tuna legacy is born. From our seas comes the treasure, bringing taste and love worldwide, all crafted with intention in the Bermeo style. So let's make it sustainable in the Bermeo style.
Thank you for sharing this song. It really proves. I think we are all wondering if when is the time that we can go to Bermeo to check this Bermeo style. I would like to invite the public to ask some questions to the panelists before we have the closing remarks. Are there any questions from the public? Please go ahead.
Maybe the mic will share.
Yes.
Thank you. So my name is Etxea, I'm from Panama. So I
It's loud.
Hello everyone, my name is Etxea, I'm from Panama. I work on the scientific side of doing research on coastal zone. I agree with everything that you just mentioned here, but then if we made it through the pipeline all the way to do research, to be a PhD, and then doing writing grants and proposals, then we have the issue that when we want to have a family, the law is not with us, right? So I think it's not only to have the girls going to STEM careers, but also like whenever you want to have a family, the parents can also be at the same positions. Like not only the woman will be staying at home, so we need to have the equal parental leaves, I think, because then it has the precedent that the woman has to stay at home, and then so that's something that is happening in Panama, that we need to have the equal rights, because we have a lot of girls going to marine biology, we have a lot of girls going to chemistry, environmental engineering, and I think they are like maybe the 80% of the classroom. But the issue is, I think, later on in life, like when we have less and less applying their knowledge into science. So that's something that I wanted to add up, because we need to have different situations in different countries. We have the ones that you just mentioned, but maybe in Panama and in other Latin American places, then we have the issue later on in the career life. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Sylvia, do you please?
Yes, just very quickly. I fully agree with you. I think that we have to break the binomial women work-life balance. If it's not just our responsibility, we have to share responsibility with men. And enterprises or research centers have to create the conditions to ensure that women or men are able to carry out their careers. So it's not anymore or only responsibility. That's the point, because they are always asking, what do you need to balance? No, I don't want me to ask them, men, what they need to balance. So we need to change the pressure from us to everybody, not for them, men, not for everybody. I think this is a mutual question, so fully agree with you.
Yeah, there's another question. Please go ahead. Oh, well, the mic is coming to you.
Yeah, first of all, just to thank you for all your opinions. Just to say, for me, it's an absolute no-brainer, given the issues the world faces, not to have women as equally involved as men working together. Just make that clear. My question is, it seems to me the ecosystem we're living in, whether you call it Western civilization, Western economy, is essentially a white European male invention that is repressive, extractive, exploitative, chauvinistic, and in many cases misogynistic. And that's a big problem. In their heart of hearts, and I know nothing about the industry you work in, but how many men in marine sciences, given that it's essentially a male ecosystem, are really interested in equality with you guys?
That is a big question. Since we're talking about marine sciences, maybe Sylvia, do you want to take this one?
You can ask first.
I'll come close.
It's not easy, I have to say, it's not easy. But I think that we are giving nice steps and strong steps to convince. I don't like the word convince, but to find allies with some men. And they are more and more every day because they need to understand that we are colleagues. Yeah, we can do the same work or different work, a complementary work, or have a different approach. But I think you said about is something about rights. I think it's something also strategic. You cannot renounce to the half of the knowledge in the world of the contributions or their possibilities to do things. So I think it's also strategic. And if things work properly, you find these allies around you. And it's the only way because we need to work together. This is not a fight. We need to be colleagues, we need to compromise our efforts and in a joint way. And I think that we are doing our best. We not as quick as we want, but I think that at the end you find compromise colleagues.
Just to add on that, because we work at the same center, all this gender perspective started with a male director, and he's still there, and he believes in that. So just to prove how important it is not to just have women believing in it, if men also believe in it, so many things can be accomplished, right? So I just wanted to put that in there, but of course, there are many male colleagues that consider women just as qualified as they are, and we're working with those that still have some issues, right? So it's still I don't want to just say that we're perfect and there's nothing to improve. There is. That's why we have Sylvia there, who's doing a great job. But yeah, Aranza, you want to?
I'm just jumping in. I think it's important to identify allies in the ecosystem, male allies, but sometimes that's not enough. That's when legal frameworks push for the reality to be more forced, to be forced into equal parental leave, whether demanded or not is a matter of human rights, and the legal framework should be providing the tools to make sure that the human rights approach and women's approach and men's approach as well is considered, and then the combination of soft and hard power in that sense might help advancing.
I saw we had another question.
Thanks so much. It was an amazing panel, and it was I love that it was inspiring that there's no, as you said, there's no many panels related to women, related to gender issues, related to gender dynamics in this social conference, and not only in this social conference. It is usually all science conference also. But something that maybe I like to comment on, and also the question is how we are integrating not only the gender equality and gender knowledge related to north of the world, but also the south of the world, and how we can maybe improve this kind of exchange and this kind of panels and knowledge also and exchanges, like to create this kind of exchanges like in a most diverse panels also. And in another question is that something that I really believe is that when we have politics and also laws and regulation that requires that not only governments but also foundations, donors, philanthropy, also as an NGO to that requires that it's mandatory, is that you have to do it. It's like you have to do it. It's a very good step. So maybe in like I don't know if it's possible, but we've been talking this with Sylvia in the gender working group in the Ocean Conference, that maybe this is something that we should like try to push in this kind of places, in this kind of platforms. So it's just that. Thanks.
Maybe, yeah, Maitane, if you want to.
Okay, well, we are very small to change the world, but for example, I talk in the end of the speech about the ALMA system. And I will add that we are promoting an international statement about tuna sustainability with this 360 vision of social, environmental, and economic perspective. And in the social dimension, we are promoting also the gender issues in the value chain, in the tuna value chain. And also we are pushing Tuna Sustainable Cities Alliance to as a space where we can share experiences, because when we are talking about the sustainability, we think that we are talking especially about the development of the territories where we are developing our activity, not only from Bermeo. I told you in the beginning that we come from a very small town in the Basque country, but our activity is worldwide. We are present in the 3 oceans, one of them in this conference, but we are present in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, and in the Indian Oceans. We have very close relationship with a lot of tuna territories all around the world, and most of them are in the southern part of the globe. So developing countries where we try to share our experience, our knowledge, our activity to promote the development of that territory as well. It is not only about doing business in Bermeo. It is more about sharing activities with those communities that live from the tuna. So our companies are fishing companies and canning companies and technological companies, processors, distribution, and also certificators. But most of them have delegations that are investing in the developing countries. So I think that this big alliance of tuna sustainable cities and the promotion of the international statement about the sustainability will help to join forces to set a new governance worldwide, where we can put in the center the way we do business. This is Bermeo style. It is something very organic for us, but something we actually think we can share with others to make this world a little bit better, a little bit better. So that's the way we are doing. And if you are living in some of these cities or you are related to the tuna value chain, I invite you to join to this statement and to this alliance, because I think it is our small way to push forward.
Unfortunately, we don't have more time, but there's going to be a cocktail afterwards, and our panelists will be there, right? So maybe you can ask the question there. Apologies, because we're running out of time and we need to have some conclusions, some closing remarks. So please, Aranza.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I've been taking notes, so there's a lot of work in putting together these reflections that I really thank not only panelists. We knew when we asked them to join that they would provide very good
feedback, but also the questions in the audience. So thank you very much. We wish to continue the conversation. I have several things to comment with some of you, so please go ahead and join us for the cocktail and have a bit of time to chill out. It's been a quite intense day. We haven't found any event related to gender equality in the whole agenda at all. We're very shocked on this. We're very shocked on this because we know that the UN system is quite has mainstream gender in most of the programs and most of the priorities. We'll have to keep on working on that. This is the Oceans Conference in most of the places I've seen SDG 8, SDG 14. I think we go way beyond that, and we need to bring once and again the relevance of gender equality across all of them. We thank you for being here today. I'm just taking the liberty to invite you to the side event tomorrow, where colleagues from Shizuoka, Japan, colleagues from Paraná in Brazil, colleagues from Hawaii, and colleagues from the Basque country will talk about localization of the Agenda 2030 with a systemic view, with gender equality as well. We'll talk about different approaches to transforming the reality and the societies. But back to today's event, we hope that we can next conferences on oceans, but not only conference, next dialogues in ocean sustainability start looking at gender equality and gender issues systematically and not on the side. Nevertheless, if there is not on the program, we will be there to put it back there. So thank you very much.
Yes, so now it's the fun time. It's a cocktail. It will be at the terrace. Our speakers will be there, so please don't hesitate to approach and answer. Oh, and there are some reports here in the first row, so please don't be shy. And if you're interested, take one.